Welcome back to Red Cedar Radar. I am Sydney. I have a new guest on today. Brendan Moore has never been on the podcast before, but he has been on our Spartans Illustrated team for how long now, Brendan? A while.
Yeah, since December, since we launched, so.
Okay, yeah, so right from the beginning. Brendan had the recent opportunity to cover the Michigan State men's basketball team down in Columbus. So we're going to get into kind of his experience there. But before we start, I just want to introduce our sponsors, Nudge Printing. They are an East Lansing and MSU alumni-owned printing company that prints apparel for all different teams across Michigan and the United States. Most importantly, especially for our visitors, they print Michigan State apparel. Like I said, they're alumni-owned, owned by a married couple that truly bleeds green. They are the site that Michigan State University chose to print their Spartan Strong shirts, so definitely check out their website and buy something from Nudge Printing. Okay, Brendan, go ahead and tell me a little bit about your experience at the game in Columbus. I'm a little bit jealous that you got to go. How was it? Give me the details.
Yeah, so I guess it began on Selection Sunday. I was actually at the Breslin Center. We were watching Selection Sunday with the team and in the recruiting lounge. I knew Columbus was kind of one of the locations where the first and second rounds were going to take place. So in my head, I'm like, okay, if going to Columbus, I could make that drive. That's very doable, only about a 4-hour drive. And so then it came down. They were the last region to be selected to the East region, and Columbus had not been chosen yet for any games. So I knew half the East region would be playing in Columbus, and it just so happened Michigan State got chosen to play USC in Columbus. So then I'm like, hey, let's make it happen. So apply for credentials. Yeah, I didn't stay in a hotel. Drove from East Lansing because I'm a student here. Just wanted to point out that I think it's the first podcast with just student-led podcast.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah,
so you didn't stay?
I did not, no.
Oh, man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I made the round trip from East Lansing to Columbus on Friday, left at like 6 a.m. on Friday morning from East Lansing, got down to Columbus around 10:15. Yeah, Friday was really cool. I got to sit second row and press row there. About 3 seats away from MSU's bench, which is really interesting. I've never sat that close before. It was funny because I'm sure if you watched the game on Friday, you saw shots of Mark D'Antonio and Kirk Gibson. They were sitting just a couple seats, the row behind me, first public row, but a couple seats to my left. So I could, they had some interesting commentary throughout the game, especially Gibson. He's a little bit of a hothead back in the day when he was playing. But, loved the passion. So, Friday was cool. I got back Friday night. Not even sure what time. Probably around 10-ish. So, full day. I collapsed right when I got home. Then rested up Saturday. Got back on the road Sunday at like 10 a.m. For the 5:15 tip. Got to Columbus around 2:30. Got there a little bit earlier. This time I sat front row, kind of by where the commentators were sitting, and where the Spartan radio broadcast was sitting, so I was front row. Yeah, that was a blast too. My life flashed before my eyes in one instant because Mady Sissoko, probably the last guy you want on the Michigan State roster, charging at you for a loose ball, was a couple steps away from just hitting all the media members right there in the front row. So, yeah, but overall it was fun. I picked up on a lot of intricacies and nuances of the game that you really don't see from watching on TV or from sitting in the public seating. So, yeah, I had a ton of fun.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Like I said, I'm jealous. On the first day that you were there, you said you sat close to the bench. Were you able to hear like Tom and the other coaches, or was it too loud in there to hear any of that stuff?
I did. You could hear them. Yeah, I'm not going to say everything that they said because there was some explicit language going on.
Mm-hmm.
But what I picked up on was a lot. The assistant coaches do more coaching than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Montgomery does a lot of the coaching from the sidelines. So you just pick up on that kind of stuff and how encouraging the players on the bench are. I heard Marty's name being called a whole lot. Like, come on, Marty, let's go, Marty, stay in this fight, Marty. Kind of that kind of stuff, just encouraging the rest of the team. Uh, so yeah, it's just kind of really cool to sit close to the bench and pick up on those things.
Yeah, definitely. I always wonder like what they're saying and what Izzo's saying, and sometimes, like you said, it's probably better that I don't know everything that they're saying. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is like just a couple game recaps in general. Any points that you have that you want to bring up from that first game that kind of stuck out to you as important, kind of leading into your next trip to Columbus?
Yeah, I'd say points of the paint were big on Friday, and just defense overall. I mean, I'm not sure what the exact numbers were, but I know Michigan State won the battle in the paint, and throughout the whole regular season, a lot of people, myself included, were like, okay, maybe Michigan State is kind of weak at the center position, at the 5 position.
Yeah.
But now when they're in the NCAA tournament, going up against Pac-12 team, a Big East team, maybe they're not so bad at the center position with Mady Sissoko. Carson Cooper stepped up these past 2 games. I mean, he's a big body in there, can cause a little bit of havoc. So, yeah, I thought down low, I thought they played really well because we know the Big Ten is filled with a lot of good centers, so maybe it's just a bad matchup in the Big Ten. But once they get to NCAAs, then I guess it's a little bit more of an even playing field down low. Yeah, but I thought defense was excellent on Friday. Drew Peterson, they pretty much shut him out. Same thing with Boogie Ellis. Going into that game against USC, those were the 2 guards that everyone was talking about, especially Drew Peterson because he's really tall. Maybe a little bit of a matchup problem for some of the MSU guards. So, yeah, I'd say defense and points in the paint and rebounding too.
Definitely. I was always wondering, like, which out of those 3, Kohler, Cooper, or Sissoko, was going to be the guy. But I kind of like that they're sharing that wealth a little bit. I mean, maybe moving into the next game on Sunday. Mady played a great game. One of his best games of the season. But also, I mean, Mady wouldn't have been able to play those minutes without Cooper going out on the floor and, like, probably being one of his best games of the season also. I think Cooper, and I'll include Kohler in this, are the type of guys that I'm excited to see 1 or 2 years down the road too. After they get into like the Izzo, I don't know what I want to call it, like the 4-year program of how he develops guys from start to finish. I think those guys will really benefit from that track, and I'm excited to see how they are after a summer, even a summer break, where they're in the weight room kind of working out with the team more. And that just kind of solidified in my mind that I'm okay with those guys sticking around and Izzo, not going into the transfer portal, which there was a big debate about that before the season and stuff started. Any other comments from USC?
Well, I did like the kind of things you were saying about Kohler, Cooper, and Sissoko. I think I know Kohler hasn't gotten a whole lot of minutes here in the NCAA tournament, but don't sleep on him next year and years after. He reminds me a lot of Zach Randolph. I know Tom Izzo said that, I think, a couple of months ago, but he's got the footwork down low. He's got some tools. He's just, Izzo will put in the best matchup for what he thinks is the best matchup, and it's been Cooper so far in the NCAA tournament. Cooper's over 7 feet tall. I mean, he's just a big body down low. He can block shots. Mady, he had the game of his life on Sunday. It reminded me of his game against Kentucky back in November.
That's what I thought
Champions
too.
Classic when he went up against Shibwe from Kentucky. So
yeah,
it was nice to see Champions Classic Mady back on Sunday.
Definitely. I mean, just in time for the end of the season.
Yeah.
Okay, looking into Marquette. So you had been on the road tons of times, probably a little bit tired. How was the energy when you came, back on Sunday? Were there more Spartan fans than there were on Friday, just because it was a weekend game, or did it feel kind of the same?
Well, compared to Friday, Friday's game I'd say was 95% Spartan fans.
Of course.
I mean, spread all throughout the arena, only 4-hour drive as opposed to USC fans.
Right.
I know they got to get used to the flight from LA to Columbus now that they're joining the Big Ten.
Yeah, right.
But it was probably only 5% USC fans, so.
Yeah.
But Sunday was more of a 50-50 crowd.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it was sold out for the first game. Not a seat was available. So, I I mean, it was a great atmosphere to be a part of, to be sitting there front row watching that game. I mean, the chants, "We are Marquette, go green, go white," or kind of going
Yeah.
back and forth. So it was fun to see the fans kind of go back and forth there. But yeah, the atmosphere really intensified that game. I mean, it was an intense, tough game. I mean, it was a typical Izzo game, winning by intensity, toughness,
Yeah.
defense. I know the 3-point shooting wasn't there,
Yeah.
but that proved to me that this team can win in multiple ways. And I think no matter the sport, I think it's very important to win in multiple ways. You think about football, if you're not able to, quarterback's having an off game, you can pound the rock a little bit more, hand it to the running back, and then you can get the play action game going. Maybe that'll open some things up in the pass game. Same thing with basketball. Maybe your 3-point shot's not working. All right, let's go down low, let's penetrate and kick out. Then maybe we'll get some more open threes. So just Michigan State being able to win in multiple ways on Friday and Sunday was probably my most important takeaway from the weekend.
Yeah, well, it just shows a well-rounded team, which I wasn't always sure that we had, like, through kind of the ups and downs of the season before. There were spots of that I saw, that we can be a well-rounded team, and then there was moments where we could, just couldn't put it together. So I'm glad, kind of like I said with Maddie, things finally coming together when it matters, maybe. But that's something I thought, too. I hope that the three-point shooting can increase a little bit for next game, just because that'll give me a little bit more breathing room. What's your opinion on that?
I think it'll be interesting to see if the 3-point shooting improves, because they're playing at Madison Square Garden, a place they're somewhat familiar with. They
Right.
played Rutgers there back in, I think that was January. Not 100% sure, though, maybe February. But they played
Yeah.
Rutgers there recently, so maybe it's somewhat familiar as opposed to Columbus, which was a totally new arena for them. I think Michigan State last played in Columbus at Nationwide Arena back in 2011, 2012, somewhere around there.
So it's been a while.
It's been a while for them. None of those players have played there before.
Yeah,
But
right.
Madison Square Garden, these players have played there before. The sight lines, kind of when they're shooting, it might look a little bit familiar, which I think is important because athletes, they're creatures of habit. You know what I mean? Like when they're practicing a jump shot, they repeat it over and over and over until it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
So I guess that familiarity of New York City, Madison Square Garden could be beneficial for Michigan State.
Yeah, definitely. Exciting for Tyson Walker to kind of be going back home in that sense. Izzo's been talking about it a lot. His slice of pizza that's waiting for him and all that stuff. But I read that, hold on, I got to think of his name. Sorry. I should have had this before. I can cut this out. I'll just say Kansas State has a player that also is from New York City. I don't know his name. I don't know much about Kansas State. Do you know much about Kansas State as a team?
I've looked a little bit at him. I know they have a guard that's 5'8", but he put up, I think, 20-plus points against Kentucky. So
Okay.
he's sneaky good. Just got to watch out for the guard play with them. I don't think they have a dominating center. So, look, rebounding battles out is there for the taking for Michigan State. Points in the paint. Yeah, so that's kind of my scouting report. Kansas State. I mean, win on toughness, win on defense. Let's stick to the identity for Izzo and the Spartans.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you have a prediction at all as far as Thursday? I'm feeling confident, but I always am feeling confident because I have to, or else then I feel like that's bad juju on the team if I'm not feeling confident. How do you feel about MSU's chances?
I mean, I think you should feel confident based on the way they've been playing the last two games.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if the 3-point shooting falls and they continue to play good defense, continue to show that intensity level, and play good team basketball, I mean, I think they can make it play beyond this weekend, to be honest. This region's right here for the taking. I know the spread opened up at Michigan State, a slight favorite. I'm leaning towards the Spartans winning. I think it'll be close. A lot of people kind of underestimated Kansas State, including myself. I had them out against Kentucky in my bracket.
Me too.
So Kansas State's a really sneaky team. I was checking the odds earlier today to make it to the Final Four out of the East region. Kansas State is behind Tennessee and behind Michigan State, and they're the best seed remaining out of every team in the East region.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, but I think the Spartans will win a narrow battle. I think it's going to come down to the last few minutes. Who can make that run in the last few minutes? Who can keep that stamina up? So and which guards can take over? Was it going to be another Tyson Walker takeover like we saw on Sunday? I think that those are some of the keys.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, looking at the season as a whole, and maybe honing in on these past couple games, but kind of taking an overview look, who is your MVP on the Spartans team as it stands right now?
I think it's got to be Tyson Walker. I know a lot of people will say Joey Hauser, but I think Tyson's the best all-around player, and when you need a shot to fall, you go to Tyson Walker. Walker plays elite defense. We saw him get that steal to pretty much seal it in his first ever dunk in college, I believe, or throughout his whole career. So I think it's Tyson's MVP. Joey, for me, I really like Joey Hauser. He's a great shooter, especially from the three-point line. I don't think he's as good at penetrating the basketball and kicking it out as Tyson is. Tyson can go in the paint, get a bucket whenever you really need him. He made that incredible left-handed layup. I don't know how it went in traffic down low on Sunday. He's got a little bit more of creativity in the bank than Hauser does. I don't want to keep dogging on Hauser. I really like him, but I think the argument's between those two, and I think Tyson's the better player overall.
Yeah, I think they're different types of players.
Yeah, no, they are.
I'm big on Joey, as you've said this year. He's been big for the team because I think he's been a steady presence throughout. Tyson always hasn't been maybe as steady as Joey has. There were injuries, so some other players maybe have been in that conversation back and forth, but they haven't been as steadfast as Hauser. But I agree, as it stands right now and how they've been playing in March Madness, Tyson is the kind of go-to guy that they need, either whether it be to like bring that energy with his creativity or just kind of like be the one that they go to for set plays and different things. I would agree with your choice there. Anything else that you want to say about Michigan State basketball overall?
Yeah, what I like about this team, sorry to cut you off there, but what I like about this team is, I guess it's player-led. Izzo teams are always, good Izzo teams are, a lot of them are player-led. You think Mateen Cleaves, Denzel Valentine, Draymond Green.
Yeah.
While this team might not have that one leader, there's a multitude of leaders. There's the Malik Hall's there, AJ Hogarth's a vocal leader. Tyson leads a lot by example. Marty can encourage the whole team. You know what I mean? So we saw that on Sunday. He fires them all up when he does well. So there's a lot of different ways in which this Michigan State team can get motivation from, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned AJ Hogarth. He's been on my mind, I guess, a lot this season. He's shown that he can be a mature leader and he can be the point guard that this team needs. And then he's also shown immature moments that have cost the team, in my opinion. What is your overall opinion on AJ Hogarth?
I think he's a tough basketball player. He's very resilient. I think on Sunday, the first play of the game, he got stripped and Marquette got an easy bucket. And then MSU went on an 11-0 run, I believe, and Hogarth had 5 of those points. He hit a big three. I think he had a couple of nasty moves on offense, creating some separation. So to me, he's a resilient basketball player. He's great at dishing the ball. He leads the team in assists per game. So he leads. He's a leader, point guard, obviously, but also if he makes a mistake, I know his free throw shooting hasn't been the best. He beats himself up a lot for that.
Yeah.
But I think he's a good player. I think he's resilient. I think he's tough. I think he's a made-for-March player.
I agree. Oh, that was good. Did you plan that beforehand? That's a perfect
I did not.
statement.
That came to me right now.
I think he holds other players to a high standard also. He's always getting on guys if things aren't running the way that they're supposed to be, and that's what we want from a point guard, especially an Izzo point guard. That's what he expects from his guys, and I think AJ kind of runs that position well. Any other player on the team that you want to highlight?
Ooh.
I know that we didn't talk about that one beforehand, that question, but put you on the spot.
Yeah, we didn't talk much about Akins. I think he's a valuable piece for the future. He's only a sophomore. He's starting pretty much the whole season outside of his injury. But I mean, Akins, he's an explosive player. He struggled a little bit shooting the three the past two games, but the whole team
Yeah.
has. So hopefully he can rebound on Thursday, shoot the three better. So I think Akins is a guy, when he's hot, he's really hot. And he's also
Yeah.
aggressive down low. I mean, we've seen his insane
Of course.
dunks in the past. So me personally, I really like Akins. I think he's going to be a leader in next couple of years to come as the next recruiting class comes in. But also,
Yeah.
he's a valuable piece for this year, and Michigan State still has at least one game left. So
He really brings the fire on defense. Like you mentioned, I've noticed he's having trouble on offense, but I think like every time the ball is back on the other side of the court, he doesn't let things hang over his head as far as how his defense is showing. I would say, maybe the best defender on the team. That's a
I think that's
off the
fair.
cuff take, but like he just really brings the energy.
I think him and Tyson are probably the best two
That's true.
defensively. Malik Hall's really physical in the paint
He's
too.
tough.
Another thing I noticed just from sitting really close is I don't think just watching them fight through ball screens, fighting for rebounds in the paint. This game's physical. Basketball is
Yeah.
a physical sport, and yeah, it was just really emphasized to me sitting so close this weekend.
Yeah, you don't really get that when you're watching on TV, I'd say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What would you say? So have you covered any other away games for MSU basketball?
I did go to the Champions Classic in November, but that's the only other away game I've covered. Probably close to 5 or 6 or 7, somewhere around there, home games.
Okay. Did you cover any away football? Did you cover any football, or were you not on the team?
I was on the team pre-football season, but only game I covered was the Minnesota game.
Okay.
We don't need to mention that.
Yeah, right. Ooh, sorry.
Yeah.
I just was going to ask what you thought about Nationwide Arena compared to other stadiums. A lot of the places where like pro basketball teams and hockey teams play, I feel like it's a weird basketball arena because it's really maybe built more towards hockey, and I find it's a little bit of an odd setup sometimes. What did you think of the Nationwide Arena as a whole? Just kind of like your opinion.
Yeah, I really didn't get that vibe that it was a weird setup. I thought they set it up really nice. I mean, the rink is obviously wider and bigger than the basketball court, so they put floor seats in for the fans. The media was kind of sitting like right in front of where the hockey boards would go.
Yeah, okay.
So I thought they had a good setup there. But what I did notice was like I noticed a couple of slippages by the players, whether that's the condensation from the ice, who knows, but obviously I've seen that with other arenas, whether like I've seen it with Little Caesars Arena, when they turn from hockey to basketball, there's some slipping. So
Yeah.
overall, Nationwide Arena, it's a nice arena. I thought the surrounding area was really nice. Right outside the arena, there was like this brick street, restaurants, bars. So I was really impressed with how Columbus dressed it up, and they did a good job.
Okay, to kind of finish off our discussion about March Madness, I wanted to take a look around the Big Ten to see how other teams fared in their run to a national championship. As it stands right now, Michigan State is the only Big Ten basketball team left in the Big Dance. How many teams won after the first weekend? I guess we should start with how many Big Ten teams made it into the bracket.
Well, I mean, 8 teams began in the field of 68. After the first round, 5 of them won, so the Big Ten went 5-3 in the first round there. But out of the 5 teams that advanced, only one is still remaining in the Sweet 16, and that's Michigan State.
So my biggest disappointment, although I kind of expected it to happen, was Purdue. I mean, they were just too big of a giant and they had to fall, in my opinion. They weren't ready, to play outside of the Big Ten. Do you have a biggest disappointment out of all of those teams?
I mean, you mentioned Purdue. I'll pick someone else besides Purdue, but I was very shocked they lost in the first round, especially to, I think, Fairleigh Dickinson was the smallest team in the tournament, in the entire tournament, and they lost to them with a 7'4" big man. I mean, that to me is inexcusable. Not that Matt Painter should be fired or anything, because that's a little out there, but that's just inexcusable for Purdue to lose in the first game, especially to a team that has the smallest and size-wise in the tournament. So Purdue, but to pick a different one from you, I guess Iowa was pretty disappointing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't play well against Auburn. Auburn pretty much dominated that game.
Yeah.
Illinois looked bad against Arkansas. I know Arkansas beat Kansas, so Arkansas is a really good team, but Iowa and Illinois both looked pretty bad.
Yeah. I was sad for Penn State, who had a great run at the end of their season. I like Micah Shrewsbury. He just seems like a nice
Yeah.
guy. And Seth Lundy, he's an underrated baller in my opinion. And I was sad for Northwestern because although Boo Booey gets on my nerves when he plays us, he has played under Chris Collins for so long and grinded for him when maybe he shouldn't have. And I just was sad to see kind of their seasons come to an end.
Yeah, I thought it was impressive what Penn State did down the stretch, going all the way to the Big Ten. They made it to the Big Ten final, so yeah, it was nice to see them beat Texas A&M. They gave Texas a challenge there late, but I mean, yeah, it was nice to see Penn State go on a little bit of a run. I thought they could have beat Texas, but yeah, like you mentioned, Micah Shrewsbury is a good coach. I wouldn't be shocked if he leaves Penn State for a bigger job. But overall, I just think the Big Ten. Not that I'm shocked that the Big Ten only has one team left, but it's just a little bit underwhelming, a little bit disappointing.
So here's a question along the lines of the Big Ten, but not someone that made it into the tournament. Sorry, my dog's barking. But where does Michigan basketball go from here? Disappointing year, disappointing trip to the NIT. I mean, what's next for them, in your opinion?
Well, they're going to have a number of guys going to the NBA, which makes this year's season just even more embarrassing because Jet Howard's probably going to leave. Who knows what Hunter Dickinson's going to do, but he's on the back nine of his college career, so I don't know where they go from here. I mean, transfer portal. I mean, that's an option. Obviously,
Yeah,
we've seen
yeah.
teams in the NCAA tournament kind of build through the transfer portal. I know Arkansas has a lot of transfer guys. Kansas State, who MSU will be playing on Thursday, they have a lot of transfer guys. So if I'm Juwan Howard, I'm looking in the transfer portal.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, although they had a bad year this year, Juwan Howard has the resume to pull guys from the transfer portal. People want to go to Michigan. It's a, big athletic school. I don't think they'd have a problem with that. I just wonder how long it will take them to rebuild. As you say, after losing those guys to the transfer portal, I think Hunter Dickinson goes. From a pure, business branding standpoint, he can't stay at Michigan another year and have them do poorly because his stock is going to continue to go down. I feel like it's maybe time for him to move on in any way to kind of preserve the image and stuff that he has left. I don't know, but that's just my opinion.
There's that side of things, but there's also the other side of the coin where you could say, okay, his NIL money. He's probably the best player on Michigan's roster, one of them. I mean, he's probably the most recognizable face on Michigan's roster, so he obviously has some NIL value to his name, whether he chooses to cash in on that next year and stay a little bit or go play pro somewhere. Who knows? But, I mean, that's kind of the benefit of NIL is maybe kids will stay in college a little bit longer just because they have something coming in. They have a little bit of an income as opposed to if, you have a low-income college student coming in playing basketball, not making much, not making much money, and then he just pursues the NBA right away. So I think NIL is good because it might limit a little bit of the one-and-done era, which I think is a good side of things.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and something that I don't think about often because, it's newer and it's not on my mind. But that is a good point about Hunter Dickinson. He is their most recognizable face. And if a lot of other people go and they're bringing in people from the transfer portal, he would be, their one guy that everybody knows. And yeah, he could cash in on that. That's a good point. You should maybe call him up and tell him that business strategy.
Maybe.
Any other points you want to make about the Big Ten in general?
It's just an
Disappointing.
average season for the Big Ten, really. I mean, they only had one, I don't want to say an elite team because I don't think there is an elite team in college basketball outside of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but one really good team in Purdue, and they were severely underwhelming in the NCAA tournament. So it's just
Yeah.
been a average year, and Michigan State's the only team surviving. They're carrying the flag of the Big Ten, and Tom Izzo takes a lot of pride in that. I mean, number one is Michigan State, obviously, but he's a Big Ten basketball coach. He's a Big Ten guy,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm happy that it's us carrying the flag. I think that kind of wraps up our episode. I'm super excited. Are you going to New York or no to cover the
no,
game? No,
my
too
my
far of a drive.
yeah, my road ended in Columbus, unfortunately. Michigan State's road is continuing in New York, so
Yeah, maybe. I mean, no, I don't even want to say that because I don't want to jinx anything. But I looked into tickets to go to the game just to, my last year of
entertain the
school.
idea, yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, it was so expensive. So, on a student budget, that didn't really make the cut. But any Spartans
Yeah.
that are going to New York City, I'm jealous of you. I wish it was me. But cheer 'em on for us, Brendan and I. Still doing our schoolwork at home. You got to carry
Yep.
the torch for us. Thank you so much for coming on today, Brendan. I hope to have you on again. Maybe to talk some football, since I think that is another one of your areas of expertise a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything you want to say as we wrap up here? I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have Spartans Illustrated is going to have 3 people in attendance in New York. I believe David's going back. David Harns, Kevin Knight's going there, I believe, and Justin Rose. So we're going to have
Nice.
full coverage from New York as well, just like this past weekend. Just a couple new faces there.
Yeah, exciting. Spread the wealth a little bit. I like it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening and watching this new episode of Spartans Illustrated. I mean, this new episode of Red Cedar Radar.
Been a long day.
Yeah. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out on Twitter. Thanks so much.